Hi traders. Recently, I got to interview Andrew Mitchem, the Forex Trading Coach, about his journey in Forex trading and his experiences going from a beginner to a full-time trader. In this interview, Andrew gives some incredible insights and lessons that I think every beginner trader would want to hear. Stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy.
Would you be able to tell me a little bit about yourself, your background and things like that?
Yeah, sure, John. So I've been living in New Zealand since 1997. I was born in England, and I moved to New Zealand to go dairy farming, of all things, nothing to do with trading. And so, yeah, I fulfilled my dream of farming in New Zealand, and stumbled into trading as a result of divorce. So it was a bit of an accident. I've done a lot of martial arts over my time. I love cricket, and we now have 5 children. I live on 11 acres in the top of the South Island of New Zealand called Nelson, beautiful part of the world. And the last 9 years, I've taken up flying a helicopter as well. So that's my brief background and where we're at today.
That's awesome. Actually, I was going to ask you about your dairy farming. I thought that would I thought it might have been sort of like a family thing, but if you've just gone and was it a family thing or was it just you?
Yeah, family farming in England.
Yeah.
My family goes back generations of dairy farms in England.
Okay.
I was kind of like the black sheep who broke the mold and decided the grass is greener on the other side of the planet, which at the time caused a few headaches, I'm sure, for my parents. But no, it was a great move to do, and never really looked back. Just love being over this side of the world.
Okay, so how did you start getting sort of interested in trade, and then was it just you were?
It was the way that I got into it, because through dairy farming, I kind of knew about the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar because that's how farmers got paid. But I didn't want to be a trader. I didn't know really anything about it. And as I was finishing farming, I actually heard an ad on the local radio, of all things, for a currency trading course up in Auckland. Okay. And it was in those days, I'm talking 20 years ago now, where everybody was trying to sell courses into everything. There was options and property and this thing called Forex. So I thought, oh, well, give it a go. And went along, paid about $5,000, went to Auckland for a weekend. And that's how I kind of got the bug, really.
Okay. So would you say that, like, from that, you were able to kind of pursuing and go forward in your career, or would you say that was just kind of like an introduction into sort of trading?
It was a bit of an introduction, but it got me, I suppose it got me interested in it. And although when I look back, it probably wasn't like the best use of $5,000. Without it, I wouldn't have had that initial interest, and I wouldn't have had contacts of knowing where to go. Right. And back in those days, internet was on dial-up, and it was still pretty slow. And so, doing research and things like you can today wasn't quite so easy. Right. And so everything that I researched back then in terms of indicators was all based on like sort of the US stock market and things like that. Forex was really, really early days at that time. So I suppose by having that strategy and that system that they taught me, it at least got me into it. It wasn't particularly great, but it got me into the idea of this is what it does, is the buying and selling side of it. I thought the ability to sell something was pretty cool. Right. I obviously enjoyed the leverage side of it as well. And living this side of the world, the traditional US stocks and things like that, or even the UK market, was not something that's that easy to trade because of the time difference. And I think, looking into something that was open 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, allowed me to experiment on some demo accounts and then go live and still work from this side of the world. But also from a personal point of view, I was looking after my son, who was about like 3 at the time, pretty much full time. And so I didn't want to go back to like a sort of a farm job or like a sales rep job or something like that. So I had probably a little bit more incentive than a lot of people to try and make it work.
Okay, yeah, that's great. So when you first started, and when did you first start to kind of get that breakthrough then of like you becoming sort of profitable and consistent? Was it within that first sort of couple of years for you? I know you said before
you probably took close on
4 years.
It really took close on 4. There was, I suppose, although I'd gone through divorce, I was in a position where I'd sold a farm. So I was fortunate that I had a little bit of capital up my sleeve. So I wasn't like forced to have to make it work from day one.
Yeah.
Although after a while, when the bank account starts draining and people look at you thinking, I think you should go and get yourself a real job now. Yeah. Because that pressure does start to build up. And even today, people still, a lot of people don't know what it is that you do. So you can imagine back then, people really didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
They think gambling or something, or this new internet thing,
Yeah.
So there was a lot of pressure there. But yeah, realistically, it took pretty much close on 4 years of trialing absolutely everything. The new latest, greatest thing, which I thought was going to be the holy grail, and of course it's not.
Yeah. You said a great thing there. So do you think a lot of traders kind of go in with that sort of initial idea of they kind of quit their jobs or things like that to go full time before being ready to do so?
Yes.
Yeah, because
not a good idea.
No.
Well, I suppose if I look back at what I did, I was thinking, if I could double my account in, like a month, and then double it again another month. And I was, doing all these calculations in my head going, I could make that 10,000 into, X millions in a year. And you get a little bit carried away with things like that because you just think that's really what's going to happen. And of course, that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Did you have those kind of thoughts that you could double it because you'd been taught that previously, or was that just because you'd made a bit of money doing it and you thought, you know what, if I just do that over and over again?
Yeah, and I was doing things like this is before I really understood money management as well, and also back in the day with like US non-farm payrolls, as it was called back then, employment change. You could put like a straddle on buy and sell stops, and even though it was on dial-up, whichever one got filled would generally jump 200, 300, 400 pips in one direction. Okay. And back then, of course, today it doesn't hardly make any difference at all. Yeah. And you're frantically trying to close the unopened order in case it changed around. So yeah, it was those type of things. It was probably quite easy. The brokers, weren't freezing stuff, or there wasn't those spikes or those type of things back then. So, so that was relatively easy to make some good money in those days. And of course, things soon changed because the market didn't move the same. Mm-hmm. And then you were trying to force similar trades in that time in between, because of course that was just a once a month event.
So you've seen a lot of change in the markets, not just from a sort of volatility point of view. You would have seen technologically just kind of like the growth of sort of internet trading and things like that, internet brokers and stuff like
Absolutely.
that. You've seen a massive change then. Would you say it's easier now, or would you say it was easier back then?
Obviously, back then there was less information.
Right.
Today, there's probably almost that stage where people get that whole analysis paralysis. There's probably too much information out there. And, there's a lot of good information, but there's a lot of rubbish, as you know. Yeah. And so I think it's that temptation today for people to think that they can go and do this by, watching a few videos somewhere, or, downloading an ebook or something, and that's going to tell them the answer. Right. Unfortunately, most of the time, that's not true. You can pick up bits and pieces, but I still think it's important for people to be able to develop a strategy. You either got to go and do a course like mine, where you go, this is a proven strategy, or if you're going to do it yourself, you've got to go and develop what works for you as a person and as a character, and what suits you as well. You can't just go, I'll take bits of that and bits of that, blend it all together and expect to get a strategy that works, because that's probably not going to happen either. But a lot's changed, with the technology, the speed of things. You look at the likes of now MT5, with the more time frames available, the huge amount more Forex pairs. And of course, now we've got the indices, the cryptos, the commodities, the metals, all those which, not many years ago, we couldn't trade. Right. So I think as someone who's kind of, cracked it and something that works, the opportunities there are now even better to get higher quality trades. You're not forcing, trades because you think, I haven't seen many trades today, and therefore you force something to happen. Yeah. I think today I can go, well, if I've not seen anything on a currency pair, I can look at a different time frame, or I could go, what's happening on a crypto, or my setup showing on aluminium or something. It's all those traditional markets out there, which I'm very fortunate my strategy works on. That's given me, I suppose, I can fine tune it and be real selective of what I'm taking.
Okay, that's awesome. So what would you say is what was your kind of biggest challenge in trading?
Well, back when between that sort of making it and not making it stage?
Around then, yeah.
Yeah, just constantly getting bombarded with new expert advisors and following forums as well.
Okay.
Because as you know, training's quite a lonely old business. You're sitting there at home and and not many people know what you're doing. And so the forums were quite good, but then of course someone brings in this new strategy and you forget what you just been learning and you go chasing the next shiny object.
Yeah.
And then someone introduces something and it just completely dissolves into a big mess. And then you follow the next one. So for me, what changed things is I then went to a stage where I was just removing myself from subscriptions as well, like unsubscribe to get rid of all this clutter that kept coming through. And I sort of weaned myself off those forums and I went to the charts and I go, you're going to try and make this work. Otherwise it's time to move on to something else.
Yeah.
And so I actually removed everything from my charts and then just looked at the price and started with some candles. Okay. And kind of tried to see what the market was doing, because I kind of realized that the more I was buying these systems and indicators and things, I wasn't actually really looking at the right-hand side and go, well, what's the price? And I think that's the trouble with too many, people have spaghetti on their screen, don't they, with dots and lines and arrows and all sorts. And they fail to look at the right-hand side. Right. And so I started to do that. And then I started to go, but this candle's come to here and it's bounced to that level. And if I look back across, to the left, it did that. That was at like 0.60 or something. If you're looking at like New Zealand US dollar.
Yeah.
It's done that many times. Then it broke through and it came back and hit that level as a high and it dropped again. So I started playing with price, candles, support, resistance, the actual price itself, and worked it from there.
So would you say that's what your strategy is most developed on, sort of support and resistance and things like that? Or is it like complex with some indicators thrown in there?
Yeah, it's predominantly using a candle itself. I found that when I started looking into price, I then got into things like Elliott wave theory and all that, which I found, and I don't want to knock it, but I found it was really good in hindsight, but almost impossible in real time.
Okay.
And the same with the traditional use of Fibonacci levels, when people were drawing from swing highs to swing lows and things like that. And it's like, well, how do I know that this is the swing low? Because in a couple of bars time, there might be a new swing low. So that last price, is that now completely irrelevant? So I got a little bit kind of like lost in that when it became real-time trading.
Okay.
So I started to, I basically identified 2 or 3 candle shapes as my predominant, and I still do that today. There's like engulfing bars, outside bars, exhaustion candles. And I look at that first, and then it needs to be in the right part of the chart. And I basically today have 2 types of trades. One's a reversal and one's a continuation pattern. And yes, I add a few indicators to give a bit of confirmation, like divergence and a Bollinger Band. But it's predominantly based on the candle, where it is in the chart. Has it got room to move to a profit target? Does it have some form of protection as a stop loss with a previous low or round number for a buy trade? Those type of things.
Okay.
Strength and weakness as well. I sort of like to trade with where I see the overall strength in a currency for that day or for that week, depending on the time frame chart.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. So is that on a particular time frame, or is that can that be spread to sort of all time frames?
Yeah, it can be applied to any time frame. So at the beginning of each month, I go through and analyze the monthly charts. Beginning of each week on my Monday morning, would be your Sunday evening, I'd go through and look at the weekly charts, and then every day look at the daily charts. So that's my sort of start of my main trading. I'm not a fan of sitting in front of the screen all day long. I think after doing it for such a long time, I realized that less is more. And so the nice thing is when I look at the daily charts, like I did, earlier today, my time, I could look at the daily charts. I could look at the 12-hour, the 8-hour, the 6-hour.
Yeah.
And at that time of the day, that's as short as I like to go.
Okay.
And then at 5 a.m. New York time, so 12 hours after the market's been open for the new day, I'll look at the 12-hour, the 6-hour. And then if, depending on if there's not much there, I might scan through like the 4-hour and the 2-hour, just because it's the European session then, and there's more likely to be more happening.
Okay.
I prefer to stick to those 6 and 12-hour, slightly longer time frame charts. But, depending on the market conditions, sometimes we'll see a really good trade on a 2 or 4-hour chart and go, well, we're taking that because the pattern's there.
Yeah. Okay.
But it means I can trade with just twice a day looking at charts.
Yeah. Would you recommend that to beginners as well then? So, because I know it's quite easily as a beginner to see all the flashing lights, see all the price movement and try and do that sort of 10, 15 trades a day. Would you say it's probably better to have that sort of bigger picture view when you're a beginner, and then maybe as you progress can go to those type of time frames?
Yeah, you could certainly go shorter if you want to. And again, it comes down to what sort of person you are. Some people might like that. You might find that some people might go, look, I'm going to dedicate a couple hours a day and I'm just going to trade hour charts or 30-minute, 15 minutes. If that's what you want to do, then fine. But I think for someone starting new, the longer time frame chart generally has more reliability in it. It means less stress in terms of the trade. You got more time to plan it, to put your stop loss in the right place, your profit target.
So what would you say to someone who is sort of starting out today and wants to become a full-time trader? What would you have done sort of differently in your journey that would help somebody that's starting out today?
Yep. So I think that the education is really important. I think, and whether I'm saying that with the Forex Trading Coach company or not, I still think it is. It's no different, from what I've done learning to do karate. You learn to do it properly with a teacher. Learn to fly a helicopter. Learn to fly properly. And this is no different. I think because what it offers you is a proven strategy, but also it offers you a community of people and like-minded people trading one strategy. So I think that's really important. Like, people can go down the whole learn themselves route, and there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to accept that it's likely to take either longer or not work. Right. So I think, that's, and look, I started by paying that money for a course, and without that course, I wouldn't have got into it. So, I have gone and done that myself in the past. I think that's really important that you find a community of people to bounce ideas off or to get suggestions from as well, to ask questions to. Because if you start talking about your strategy on a forum, no one's got a clue how you trade. And forums generally get dominated by someone, and they like to give their opinion all the time, and therefore you lose that. You're not going to get a real answer. So I think a community of people is really important, and also it's something that shouldn't take all day long. And looking at one of the benefits of now with moving into like sort of the ability to trade not just your own funds today, I think is massively important. So having a strategy that's predominantly looking at low risk, low drawdowns, low risk, because I always say to people, there's two things that affect your trading that you won't know at the beginning, and they're quite obvious, but one's your head and one's your heart.
Yeah.
Your emotions, you cannot stress enough to a new person how your emotions will affect you, regardless of what you think in your trading. So you've got to have, it's no good having this system that makes all this money and then has these huge drawdowns, because realistically, you're not going to be able to trade that going forward or on prop firms or however you want to trade in the future. So you've got to have something that's risk orientated, as in low risk. And that will then give you those slow, steady returns rather than looking to jump to the moon within a month. Don't look at doubling your account in 2 months like I did.
Yeah. I mean, we can all wish, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose, I'll just use the benefit of hindsight to help other people and go, well, don't do that. Do it properly. Treat it as a business, because ultimately that's what it is. It's real money.
Okay, awesome. So if I was to say to people, go see Andrew, what would they get from you if they come to the Forex Trading Coach?
Yep. So we've been running for 14 years, which we're
awesome.
really proud of that achievement.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Not many have done that. You can look back on Forex Peace Army to 2009 when we had our first reviews. So we offer the strategy that's based on the price action, everything that we include everything you need to know, none of the fluff that you don't. Each week we hold a live 2-hour webinar where we trade on live accounts. every single day we post trades based off the daily charts for our clients to follow. So specific trades with the currency pair, the direction, like a paragraph of reasons why we're looking at that trade, plus the exact entry and exit levels. So people can go, and we call it like earning while you learn.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which way around you put it. If we do it well, hopefully you'll earn something, but you're also learning. So you're learning this pattern to see it for yourself in real time. We have some software that we include. We have an incredible forum site that's really well populated, where us and other clients put other shorter time frame charts on throughout the day. And we've got clients in 101 countries. So it's well and truly populated in terms of it's global. It's not just based in New Zealand or based in the UK. It's a global group of people all trading just one strategy. And I think that's what makes it work.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, thank you for joining me today. It's been absolutely brilliant. It's been really insightful. So I appreciate all your thoughts. It's been really, really brilliant. I'm sure our subscribers would really love to come and see some more. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so have a look at the website, which is theforextradingcoach.com.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much.
Have a look at that.
And
You're welcome, John. Continue. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching the interview. I hope you really enjoyed it. We've got more coming up very soon. Please leave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the YouTube channel. All of Andrew's details will be in the description below. Cheers, guys.